Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm Darren McBreen. It is Thursday, November 20th, 2014. Here's a quick look what's coming up.
Tonight on the INFOWARS Nightly News. All hell is about to break loose nationwide as Obama announces an executive order opening the floodgates to anarchy and violence as tensions mount in Ferguson. Plus, newly released documents reveal that the FBI targeted a Black Panther for not being racist. Coming up next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
Police departments across the country are preparing for what they expect to be the acquittal of Officer Darren Wilson. A state of emergency has already been declared in Missouri, and the FBI has sent out a bulletin warning citizens that the grand jury's decision in the Michael Brown shooting will likely lead to extremist violence as Ferguson waits on the edge. And we now take you to the Ferguson command base where once again INFOWARS has boots on the ground. Staff Sergeant Biggs, hey, it looks like once they announce this verdict that all hell's going to break loose. What do you expect to see this time around?
Well, exactly. That is the feel here on the streets by a lot of the locals who have lived in Ferguson most of their life. Jakari and I actually stopped into a store right across from the Ferguson Police Department called I Love Ferguson. It's a nonprofit organization trying to raise money for the town. And a lot of the people that work there all have this sense that, you know, the axe is going to hit and things are just going to go crazy and ballistic. And everyone's really praying and hoping for the best. But quite honestly, everyone's preparing for the worst case scenario. You know, we have a lot of these militant groups that are threatening violence, trying to burn down buildings, saying they want to hit the electric company, take down the power grid, possibly hit Monsanto. You know, quite honestly, I'm not going to be in tears if that were to happen. I'm not condoning it, but I'm not going to lose any sleep if that happens. But, you know, they're expecting a lot more organized violence in a sense. You know, back in August when we were there, there was a lot of sporadic violence, almost like when I was in Iraq. There was no leadership involved, just a lot of angry people picking up weapons and or rocks, whatever, and just kind of attacking and having their own personal game plan. This time around, there's a lot more organization involved. You know, these protest groups, activists, militants, whatever you want to call them, they've had months to prepare now. And here we are. We're getting ready to have the release of the amnesty bill tonight. And I think that the Ferguson's going to be a burqa to cover up this whole amnesty bill. And that's something that they're planning on. We see a lot more government vehicles in the area, the DHS, some undercover vehicles. We saw a black Suburban today that kept driving up and down the street, looking at us, filming us. So there's a lot of tension in the area right now.
Well, that's right. And I want to talk about some of these protest groups and these militant groups that you were just referring to, because they have stated publicly that they plan to initiate violence. The group that calls themselves Justice for Mike Brown and others, they are saying that they will attack companies and institutions that are completely unrelated to the Michael Brown case. And they are even targeting individuals. They went as far as releasing a target list. I don't know, it sounded like you've already seen it. And some of the demonstrators have promised to loot and damage property if the grand jury decides not to prosecute Darren Wilson. So what do you think about this target list, and how does burning down buildings and looting, how is that supposed to stop potential or future police brutality? Am I missing something here? Because I guess I just don't get it.
Well, there's a gash in the community, so to say, a wound in Ferguson, and you're not going to heal it by burning down buildings, by creating the burn down bridges. You know, the community here thus far that I talked to, the civilians here on the ground, they've been meshed together really well. Blacks, whites, Hispanics, everybody's lived together for years on end without any problems, really. The only problem thus far has been the police state, so to say. So, you know, right now MSM and all these people are trying to make this huge racial division between the community in Ferguson when, you know, but when we get out here on the streets and Jakari and I go out and talk to people, you don't see that whatsoever. You see everyone of every denomination and color hugging, talking, smiling. You don't see this huge racial division like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson would like you to think that's going on here whatsoever. You know, and another thing as well, the Anon group, they're called Operation KKK. They started their website or their Twitter feed about a week and a half ago, trying to expose these KKK guys who said they were going to come to Ferguson and, basically shoot at or attack protesters that they didn't like. Well, today they put out a Twitter or a tweet saying that by the end of the day, they guarantee to put out proof that Darren Wilson is part of the KKK in this area. So that's something I'm kind of and I'm waiting on right here. I'm waiting to see whether or not they have proof for that, because I do think that could take a huge turn of events for the mood here in the area, especially if Darren Wilson is not convicted whatsoever, or not indicted, I should say, on these charges.
Well, my hunch is that everybody's getting along right now during the day, but what my concern is that at night and once the verdict is read, that there's always the agent provocateur situation. You have the new Black Panthers that are out there, and like I said, we have this list of targets from some of these groups. And what are you more concerned about once the verdict is read? Do you feel more threatened by potential angry, violent protesters, or are you more concerned about the militarized police?
I would be more concerned about the undercover provocateurs. There's going to be angry protesters. That's going to happen. Some people, last night, Jakari and I just walked up to the protests going on, and a lady was questioning us right off the bat, saying, I don't know who you guys are. People, since we've been here, assume that we're cops because they haven't seen us in a while or something like that. So there's a lot of the protesters on edge because they don't feel like they can trust everyone. They've got a bad taste in their mouth because the mainstream media has kind of burnt them on a lot of issues, making it about race instead of about the issues at hand that they feel are important. I think from what I saw last night, the way the police handled themselves, they handled themselves 5 times better. I wouldn't say 10 times better, but 5 times better than they did in August. It's still early. It hasn't hit the fan yet. But based off that, I can't really give a good judgment on that. But there was still a provocateur there last night. There was a person off in the corner in the back parking lot. And it's funny, they never want to show themselves. They always do it somewhere hidden. The guy threw a bottle right as the police were arresting somebody, and it hit right there in that group of people. So you're going to have people who want to sneak in, and it's the cowards who won't show their face and the ones hiding off in the darkness. Just like Martin Luther King said, if you want to make a change, you do it in the brightness of the day. You don't do it in the darkness of night. And that's what you said. During the day, there's peaceful protesters out, but at nighttime, it gives people that cover of darkness to hide and incite violence and do a lot of dirty things to help take away from the peaceful protests that are going on here in Ferguson, Missouri.
Well, I think it's very interesting, too, and you alluded to it earlier, that Barack Obama plans on announcing his amnesty plan this evening through executive order. And what do you think about the timing of that? It is precisely at the same time that the Michael Brown verdict is expected. Do you think that is deliberate timing, or is this a coincidence?
I mean, you got to think with the VA issue, when all these media corporations, when CNN, Fox, everybody was coming out and saying, hey, there's this huge VA scandal, vets are dying. What happened? The Bo Bergdahl release. Now, what did that do? That took all the attention away from the dying vets, the people not getting the appointments they need. So it makes perfect good sense for me that the Obama administration would time this just here on the eve of that, for when they're going to release at 8 o'clock tonight, release the amnesty bill and what he's going to do. And then here we are finding out that either tonight or tomorrow we could possibly have this grand jury decision on what's going to happen. Because, a lot of people aren't going to want to turn on the news and watch President Obama talk about the amnesty bill. People are going to be more in tune to watching the violence that erupts, the riots and things like that, because we are, in a sense, living in the movie Idiocracy.
Well, regardless what happens, you guys are truly right there during another historic moment that's about to unfold in Ferguson. And once again, you guys are right there in the front lines of the info war. And I sure hope the best for all you. You guys be safe and be sure to check in. We're going to be glued to our seats. Trust me, we're going to be watching the Ustream. As soon as that verdict is read, we'll all be glued to the TVs.
And thank you for your time.
All right, buddy. Take care, man. And Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson will be updating us every step of the way in Ferguson. Be sure to check out INFOWARS.com for continued updates. And also check out the live stream. It'll be streaming live on Ustream, ustream.tv/Real Alex Jones. So as soon as they read the verdict, and if there's any rioting or police state activity, rest assured these guys will deliver the action. And we're going to see some amazing coverage in Ferguson that, trust me, you will never see on the mainstream television. Infowars.com. Be sure to check it out. Hey, we're going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by a guy who was targeted by the FBI for not being a racist. Not kidding. Stick around. InfoWars Nightly News. We'll be right back.
The average person's life is filled with unexpected challenges. Unlock the energy it takes to defeat these daily beasts with super male or super female vitality, specifically designed to assist the body in regulating proper hormone balance to create superior vitality in males and females. Supercharge and conquer your world at InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder, backed by FDA-approved phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. Take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Recently, the New York Times published newly declassified documents of a letter from the FBI to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The graphic contents of the letter have been made public for the first time and appear to be a heavy-handed attempt to blackmail Martin Luther King into taking his own life. Now, a heavily censored document of this letter has existed for some time. It is infamously known as the suicide letter, but most of the outrageous language and threats in the letter have remained a secret until now. And I want to get my good friend Larry Pinckney's take on all this because he could relate. Larry was, of course, an original member of the original Black Panther Party. He was also a victim of COINTELPRO and political prisoner for 10 years. And he joins us now from Minneapolis. Larry, how you doing?
I'm continuing to struggle, my brother. Good to hear your voice. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to have you on, and I can't wait to get your opinion on this letter, outrageous letter from the FBI to Martin Luther King Jr. This is about as hardcore as it gets. They are calling him a filthy, abnormal animal and tell him to take his own life. But my guess is that to you personally, I would imagine that this had kind of a familiar ring to it.
Unfortunately, you're absolutely correct. It does have a very familiar ring in view of the fact that as a COINTELPRO target, I myself was set up very similarly. And it's very interesting that only now are certain things, and I say certain things, coming to light, in this case, with respect to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, I want to read word for word portions of this document as this letter is a real masterpiece of gutless trash, if you will. It begins by saying, no person can overcome the facts, not even a fraud like yourself. Lend your sexually psychotic ear to the enclosure. You will find yourself and in all your dirt, filth, evil, and moronic talk exposed on the record for all time. Listen to yourself, you filthy, abnormal animal. You are on the record. And that's from the FBI uncensored letter to Martin Luther King. But wait, there's more. It goes on to say, King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do it. This exact number has been selected for a specific reason. It has definite practical significance. You are done. But there is but one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is bared to the nation. Wow. So this was a real and serious threat to Dr. Martin Luther King and his family. And now we know that they believe it was actually written by none other than J.